Senator McConnell, we're told, was hospitalized. Have you heard any word on him?
I have. I spoke to him yesterday, and he was in good spirits. I mean, he was paying very dialed in, paying attention to what's going on, and indicated that he would be back soon.
That was the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, just days after Senator Mitch McConnell was admitted to the hospital. It has now been 3 weeks since McConnell was admitted. We still don't know why he's there. Today, spokespeople for both Leader Thune and the GOP whip, John Barrasso, said the senators recently spoke to McConnell about a variety of topics. McConnell's office says he's recovering, but they've not provided any details about his condition, which has left room for rampant speculation, even prompting some MAGA voices to say McConnell's team needed to provide proof of life. Joining us now in the arena is Al Cross. He's a political columnist for the Northern Kentucky Tribune, professor emeritus at the University of Kentucky, long-standing dean of the press corps in Kentucky, and has covered McConnell for a long time. But I actually do, Al, want to start with, I know, our mutual, I know you know Scott Jennings quite well from your time, because Scott...
Start with the news. Scott has the news.
Scott has the news, exactly. You spoke with Mitch McConnell today. What did you talk about? What did he say?
Yeah, he called me this morning before I did my radio show. We talked for about 17 minutes. You know, he talked a lot about the situation with Iran, talked a little bit about Ukraine and what's going on in Europe. I told him I'd been to the Teddy Roosevelt Library. We talked a little bit about the history of the vice presidency and how Roosevelt had transformed that in the modern presidency, a little history of the Senate. I mean, it was a wide-ranging conversation. I talked to him often. I hadn't talked to him since he'd been in. I'd gotten a few text messages from him, but I hadn't spoken to him. So it was good to hear his voice. Voice sounded strong and sounded like he was keeping up with the news to me.
Did you ask him how he was feeling?
Yeah, he said he was feeling okay. You know, obviously well enough to call me on the phone, and obviously well enough to talk to Barrasso and Thune. Now, look, I'm not qualified to discuss any medical issues or give you any information about that. That's really for him or his staff to do. But, you know, I talk to him from time to time, and I see him from time to time. And, you know, we had a conversation today about the things that we normally talk about, which are news of the day, political stuff.
Did you come away feeling like he's still capable of serving the people of Kentucky as senator?
I came away feeling that he was staying on top of the news. Again, I look, his condition and why he's in the hospital or when he might come out, or look, that's.
Do you know why, and are just saying it's not at liberty to share?
I do not know why. I only know, frankly, what has been reported or what his office has said. So it was a personal, private call, but I didn't probe him too deeply for his medical records.
Would you encourage him or anyone in his position to be more transparent with his voters about his health than he's been so far?
Good question. I think that's a fair thing to say. But on the other hand, you know, my impression of men of that age is that they're a little private when it comes to their health. Now, he's in public office, and that carries a different responsibility, but it's a fair question.
Can I just jump in here? Because we have been on multiple shows together where you have brought up Secretary Austin's hospitalization when I was in the administration, and you were very critical of us on the handling, and the Secretary, of his handling and you were incredibly critical of him not being transparent with the American people and the public about his condition. And I find it just so interesting that you're not being critical of a sitting senator who represents the state of Kentucky not being transparent with his constituents. He's been able to call Thune, Barrasso, and you, but we have no idea why he's hospitalized. But you were so critical of Secretary Austin, who did disclose why he was hospitalized, and it was for 5 days. We are at almost a month, and we have no idea why Mitch McConnell has been hospitalized, and you're not being critical. You're not concerned by that?
Well, of course I'm concerned about my friend. I've known him since I was 16 years old. So if you're asking me if I'm concerned, if you want to be ornery and mean about me being concerned about my friend, you're welcome to do it. He's not the head of the United States Armed Forces, who apparently went AWOL
He is
while
the
he was Secretary of
sitting
Defense.
U.S. Senator for your home state.
And do you think
for
that-
your home
and-
state, for the people, they don't
And you
deserve.
don't see the difference in those two positions?
There is no difference. They are elected to public office.
difference.
There is no difference. They should be held to the same exact standard. Secretary Austin did
right.
disclose his condition. Mitch
Hold on, I have
McConnell
one
should
more
too.
question for Scott, and then I want to bring Al into this conversation. Scott, was this an audio call, a FaceTime call? Does McConnell
audio.
FaceTime ever?
I can't say that I've ever FaceTimed with him. I do get text messages from him, and we do talk on the phone, but I think it's always audio.
Okay. Al Cross, I'd love to get you to weigh in here because I do know that you had been speaking at some length to the senator as he prepares to exit the public stage, which we had known was part of his longer-term plan. What have you been hearing from him? Have you heard from him since he was hospitalized? And how do you look at all of this?
No, I haven't made any effort to it. I've had 2 long interviews with him in the last 6 weeks because I'm doing a project for the Kentucky Historical Society that'll come out in December. And first, I want to thank Scott for putting on his old reporter hat and bringing us the news today. He has done Mitch McConnell and the people of Kentucky a favor by getting out some information. It would still be nice to know if and when the senator is going to come back to work, but the Senate's in recess this week, so I expect we'll see some news on that on Monday. I do think that his reluctance, or his office's reluctance, and I suspect it's his reluctance, to say very much about his condition stems partly from his pride. He is, he's a person who has a lot of pride, justifiably so. That kind of gets in the way of admitting infirmity. And he's always been very private about his health. However, when you say as little as he has said, you are simply letting conspiracy theories and speculation fill the vacuum. And when people deal primarily in speculation and conspiracy theories, that just adds to the distrust that people have of the political system and the people in it. And whose hands does that play into? It plays into Donald Trump's hands, and I doubt that Mitch McConnell likes that.
Yeah, fair enough. Are you surprised, Al, that they haven't been willing? We haven't seen any photos of McConnell, for example. What does that tell you?
I don't know. I just think it all goes to his desire to keep things private, and Secretary Chao may have some influence in this matter too. I think that perhaps this is the worst situation he's been in since the fall in the hotel that kept him out for 6 weeks or so. And because the situation is serious, he's all the more guarded about it. He may not really know if and when he's going to be able to come back to work. I find it interesting that he has not expressed that, although Leader Thune did say he had expressed that.
Scott Jennings, as we wrap up here, do you think he'd be willing to call into the show? Could we get him on the phone now?
I wasn't really expecting him to call this morning, to be honest. So when the phone rang and I was able to talk to him, I was frankly pretty grateful. I mean, as I said, I've known him since I was a teenager. If it hadn't been for Mitch McConnell and the McConnell Center at the University of Louisville, I would never have been able to go to college. He's been my mentor, and he changed the trajectory of my life. So, when things happen to him and happen to people in your life that you really care about, you just sort of naturally feel extremely worried. So when I heard his voice today, and he was clearly keeping up with stuff, that made me happy to hear from him. Because like everybody else, I've been, somewhat in the dark about it. But to hear him talking and to know that he's also talking to the Senate leadership, it made me pretty happy.
The MAGA media ecosphere, shall we say, has been driving a lot of the questions about where Mitch McConnell has been and what has happened to him. You, of course, are in tune with that in the role you have on your radio show. Do you think they should put out a picture of Mitch McConnell, that he should release more to the public to quiet this noise?
Yeah, I think Al had a good point about McConnell's general disposition towards privacy. I sometimes wonder, if I were laying in a hospital bed, would I want a bunch of people around photographing me? Probably not, particularly if I were an 84-year-old person who's normally private about his health. Probably not. But I take the criticism. I think it's a fair question about transparency. I think it's a fair question about whether they've done enough. But ultimately, these office holders, they're in charge of their own operations, and it may be somebody around him says, let's put out a picture, and he doesn't want to do it. I think that's a fair observation from Al. But all I can tell you today is all the rumors about him being dead or brain dead or his body's being hidden somewhere. I've seen all kinds of crazy things on the internet. That's obviously not true because he picked up the phone and called me, and that was a good thing.
Well, let him know. Our phone lines are open here at the arena. Should he
Long-time listener,
should he
first-time
wish
caller.
to call in, as someone who covered many of his Senate campaigns, not as many, of course, as Al Cross, but a couple. Al, thank you very much for your time, sir. Appreciate it. Hope you'll come back.